social worker, owner-operator of A Little Zen, specializing in individual therapy for children, adolescents, and adults, small group therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, mindful cognitive behavior therapy, body-centered psychotherapy, and forest and nature psychotherapy. You can contact her at Zenia at alittle.zen.ca. And joining us on the phone right now, Scott Campsall from Okami Kai Karate and Zenia Mihevc. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
You like that
Good
one,
morning.
did you, Zenia?
I was like, whoa.
Oh, that's me. Hey, she's impressive. I'd call her, oh, that's me. Yeah. Well, it is impressive because you do cover an awful lot. And I'm sure that, I know you're busy because we were talking, and it has been a busy time. Would you say, is this just a typical thing post-Thanksgiving, or this is just welcome to 2020 and the pandemic?
I think it's a little bit of both. Usually holiday times are pretty stressful for people as well, too, because just the nature of getting together with family or not getting together with family and the mixed feelings that go around it, and being able to choose what is best for you and your self-care and your self-sustainability versus, what is the quote-unquote right thing or correct thing to do. And I don't mean like COVID and following kind of the protocols that are put out for us, but sometimes it's like, well, they're my family, I should, and I'm supposed to, versus I don't know if I'm in a place where I can hold that space right now. So holidays are pretty stressful to begin with. For lots of people, there's just lots of hype around it. There's a lot of emotions around it, and there's always a lot of food around it, and food and mood stuff go pretty hand in hand. And what we eat and how we eat can definitely affect our moods.
Really? That dramatically?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're overeating. We're eating stuff that we don't typically eat, and that sets our body. Our body keeps score of everything that's going on with our lives, right? Our body knows before our brains tell us into words. So when we eat foods that don't necessarily sit well with us, our bodies are trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Our bodies are trying to regulate that, and then therefore we don't have space in our persons to be able to necessarily manage some other things. And what our bodies want to do is shut down and lie down and rest.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fascinating. Because you think about how many television shows you see, and somebody gets depressed, and what do? They reach for the ice cream or brownies or whatever, and there they are sitting there. I guess that's what you're talking about too.
Yeah, absolutely. We overeat on it. The comfort foods come from somewhere. They come from a sense of, this is what I had when I was younger. This made me feel good. This is what I got when I was upset. But sometimes when you got this kind of food, when you were upset, it was followed by maybe some criticism, maybe some comments on why you're eating that, about your body image that goes to yourself. And the other part of it is we want to, when we're feeling overwhelmed, we want to ground. Our body wants to ground. And we go to different things to help us ground and center and, for lack of a better word, feel heavy. We don't want to feel heavy, but we want to feel grounded, like secured to our root. The quickest way to get there is to overeat, because then we just feel tired and lethargic and we don't want to do anything. And those comfort foods, mashed potatoes, gravy, hot turkey sandwiches, chips, pie, they will ground us and root us, but they're doing it in a way that's not helpful for our emotional well-being.
I want to know who said what to me to make me want to eat so many chips. Somebody must have said something to me because, oh my goodness, that's the Achilles heel.
It's a weekly thing, Dan. I call every Wednesday.
Yeah. What I didn't tell you, as soon as we finish our conversation, I run out and buy a bag of chips, but that's okay.
That's a constant
chips is my thing, too. It's the salt in it, too.
Yeah.
Right? The salt in it isn't going for our adrenals, but it's also the heaviness and the greasiness about trying to ground. But there's other ways to ground.
Yes, and you literally ground people.
Literally ground.
You talked about nature, and I really wanted to talk about that, the nature psychotherapy. So basically, I guess it would be a therapy session taken outdoors, or is it more than that?
It's a little bit more than that. But it is also exactly that. So forest therapy, forest bathing came from a Japanese practice called Shinren Yoku, and I apologize, I'm not pronouncing it very well. Scott, you might get a little better pronunciation.
Yeah, no, that was pretty close. Yeah.
Which kind of literally translates for forest bath. And what the idea is that you're bathing. I remember when I first started doing it, people are like, what are you doing in the forest that you're bathing? And I had this old picture from when I was living out west, where there was like this old clawfoot tub in the middle of the forest. So of course I jump fully clothed, toques on, everything. It was the middle of autumn, and I jump in and pretend that I'm bathing, not realizing that this would be such a huge part of my life moving forward, of this forest bathing. I'll have to send you that picture because it's fun.
Because I'm thinking you got boughs and you're bathing. And yeah, exactly.
But what it is that you're actually bathing in the atmosphere, and you're taking in the forest through, through your senses. So, when it comes to forest psychotherapy or nature psychotherapy, we take the counseling sessions outside, the therapy sessions outside, but it's not just a walk in the park. It's not just a walk in the woods, and neither is the traditional forest bathing. It's intentional. It's sharing breath with the trees around us. What we breathe out is what they breathe in. What they breathe in out is what we breathe in. And there's a wonderful connection. So it's incorporating mindfulness. It's incorporating intentional living. It's incorporating practicing of slowing down. So the most interesting thing that I see when I'm doing these forest sessions with people, and we are walking and talking, is when something is stressful or overwhelming or upsetting, their pace starts to quicken. Their voice starts to quicken, which is what we would normally see in any sort of sitting down session, or when you're talking with someone and they're talking about something that's upsetting for them. Because, the stress levels start to amp up. So then we want to get it out, and it needs to come out really super fast. Excuse me, my coffee bubble of my throat this morning. But it's interesting to see how they're starting to walk a lot faster. So a lot of the practice is to slow it down. And when I have that body, like the physical body of someone, and they can see that, now I'm actually almost running up this hill. And it felt like I was going up a hill when really they're going on flat land. It's a neat way to learn more about yourself and how to slow it down. So we start each practice with a guided sensory meditation, eyes closed, eyes open, whatever it is. And we start by slowing the practice and starting the journey of just walking instead of diving into this almost not the best way to describe it, like that verbal diarrhea, right, of just everything having to come out and it coming out really quickly. But we start with really slowing down and taking in the things that we see, the things that we hear.
Does it start off sometimes as you can't see the forest for the trees?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the best part of it, too, because we start with the intention and with the practice, the mindfulness practice, and going through the five senses of what you can see, hear, feel, touch, smell, taste. And then as we move through the session and things are happening and we're talking about difficult things and we're practicing different skills, I'll often pause and say, okay, so what can you notice? And a lot of times they go, I don't even remember where we went, because they were so caught up in talking about the things that are stressful or overwhelming. So we practice slowing down and then continuing on with their story, or continuing on with the discussion that we're having. And when they start to slow down, they can then go, all of a sudden you're saying, hey, look, there's a little snake. Hey, there's a little snail. Oh, look at that. I didn't see that before, because we're becoming more mindful, meaning we're becoming more aware of what's happening outside of us and aware of what's happening inside of us. So then as the process continues and we move through, it's not about getting in 5K. Sometimes we don't walk very far, and then we find a place that we want to sit and be and practice stillness and practice rooting or earthing. And autumn and winter are my favorite times to be in the forest. Summer is actually my least favorite time to be in the forest.
And why is that? Just there's so much going on?
Well, there's so much going on. There's often a lot of extra things like the bugs, the heat. I mean, where we live, it can be sweltering hot that we don't want to be outside, and that can just cause more stress. It's like that internal flame is now coming outside, and it can just increase the feeling of overwhelmness. But the fall and the winter allows for a more almost like natural calming feedback that comes back because the forest is still. It's quiet. There's less happening. There's less around. And it just gives the sense of that exhale. We're not too hot. We're typically not too cold. And we can just kind of be in and sit without the nuisance of bugs or the sweltering heat.
Is it land's answer to water? I know you talk about negative ions with water if you're around a body of water, things like that. A similar idea with nature and with forests?
I think so. I mean, you're just surrounded by so much fresh oxygen and plants that you're breathing so much deeper without even realizing it. So it just brings in like a hit of oxygen. I mean, there's oxygen. Well, I don't know if there still is. There was oxygen bars in Vancouver and Toronto where you'd go and like sit down in this place and get tubes up your nose and breathe in this like scented oxygen. But we don't need to go and do that.
No.
And like, right, cool, brilliant marketing, like wonderful that you managed to market that and sell that. That's awesome for you. But like, it's right here. We can have that same hit of oxygen and that assistance in helping us breathe and exhale and just let go and ground in the earth.
Well, just to tell you my weird sense of humor, all I can envision is somebody around the time that they're tapping trees now deciding to go and do that to get their oxygen. So
yeah.
I'm definitely going to check my maple syrup this year, but just to make sure.
This is a big thing. Oxygen bars are huge in Japan. You're traveling around Tokyo and stuff, so it's interesting that I've seen that many oxygen bars, and these guys, this kind of culture came up with going into a forest and doing this. Yeah,
the genesis was there.
Yeah.
Now,
how does somebody get into that? So if like, let's say you have a client, do you say, oh, you really need forest bathing, or do they actually seek you out for that?
Sometimes it's both. Well, they don't know if they actually seek me out for that specifically, but when they're looking and searching for a therapist, it's all on my website. So they'll go, oh, I saw that you do forest therapy. What's that about? Or I will talk when I start meeting them. I always do the first sessions in office or virtual, like depending on where we're at in the world. So we just get an opportunity for safety, for someone to meet me, for me to meet them, for us to establish kind of rapport and connection, and get through some like the housekeeping things that we do at the beginning of each time I meet somebody new. And then when we go over my consent form for them to consent to therapy, I said the back page is actually where it's going to say, if you're interested in ever going out into the forest or doing some movement and breath work, here's the consent. Because, I got to make sure that everyone's safe when they know the inherent risks of going in the forest, that there might be uprooted trees or there might be bugs. So we got to make sure that everyone is informed correctly as to what they're kind of signing in for. But I don't choose intense hiking. Like, we're not doing high grade, intense, difficult hiking trails. We're usually doing ones that are fairly flat, that maybe have a little bit of water, and I do the ones that I know, so I'm also not getting anybody lost.
Zenia Mihevc joins us. She's a registered clinical social worker. Well, let's wrap up. So if somebody is interested in taking the nature psychotherapy, do you do it individually? Do you do it in a group session at all? Or?
We're doing individual right now. My groups are a little bit more limited at this time just for where we are, but we're definitely individual is something that's coming up. And then hopefully, as things start to shift with this pandemic, that we can get into doing a little bit more group work. I mean, the forest is big enough that we can stay 6 feet apart, but just in terms of also confidentiality and talking, we don't want to be yelling to hear each other across the forest either. So right now, doing mostly individual. I am starting to work on doing some planning to do a virtual group where people would go out on their own, but we would all be connected through voice and video.
Through cell phones?
Yeah, we can use technology, right?
Wow.
And then and do it together. And I've actually done a few of that, of people that I meet with virtually that live not in the area. They say, okay, I'm ready. When I meet them, I go to my forest, they go to their forest, and we have our forest sessions together but separate.
How's it work? Does it work pretty well?
It does, actually. Because then they're seeing different things, and it's not about me pointing stuff out, and they're going, oh, this just happened, or I just noticed this, and you can still tell by someone's breath if they're walking, if they're running, where they're at. So it's been a pretty neat little discovery. It just kind of showed up.
Yeah, it is the year of open vision this year, 2020.
Yeah,
that's for
innovation.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, listen, we want to thank you for your time. If someone is interested in contacting you, how can they do that?
My website, alittlesen.ca, and my phone number and email and all that is right there. So if you just Google alittlesen.ca or Zenia Mihevc, you'll find me, and we can get connected. Get you out in the forest.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a great idea. Well, listen, we want to thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Zenia Mihevc.
Great day.
You too. Zenia Mihevc, registered clinical social worker, and also on the line is Scott Campsall from Okami Kai Karate. See, the karate I can get. What is the Japanese word for being in the forest?
Shinren Yoku.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah. Enjoy your chips, Dan.
Yes, I will enjoy my chips. Have yourself a great day.
Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That is Scott Campsall from Okami Kai, who joins us every Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday. And this week, Zenia Mihevc joining us as well.